Well, this is Jimmy, and we're back for another episode of Libertarian Uncensored podcast. Let's get right into it. Georgia sues True the Vote over refusal to show 2,000 mules evidence from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.com by Ninja Lover, and I think that people should be able to say whatever they want, and if I personally don't think, you should be able to sue anyone for their speech, like you see a lot of these days for slander or libel or defamation, or I don't believe those should be things. So I think, 2,000 people should be able to make whatever claims it wants, and I don't think the state should be able to sue over that. So that's my thoughts there. Then we have Nazis of Color from Unicorn Riot, from Ninja Lover, and yeah, I think that is a, how many of these articles are there going to be? We already had the LA Times call Larry Elder the blackest white supremacy. The definition of Nazi these days is pretty much anyone who disagrees whatsoever with the official DNC narrative. And if you wondered why they seem to be publishing these articles, it's because a lot of racial minorities tend to be social conservative and stuff like LGBTQ, and so they're increasingly voting for the GOP. The media need to find a way to tell people that without looking like racists. They run articles like this one. Always be aware of the subtext. It's often much more important than the article itself. That's why you gotta be aware of the subtext, the context, and why the media is saying what it's saying. They're not gonna tell you a lot of their agenda up front, I would say. They're gonna hide it in the context or the subtext, and this is a good example of that. Blue pill people freely acknowledge the powerful elites work together to further their interest at the expense of everyone else, but will dismiss virtually every single example of them doing so as a conspiracy theory from Michael Mouse on Twitter, and I posted that. I said, upholding the narrative is much more important to a lot of people than being consistent. That's why you gotta, the narrative, as I said, I think in the last episode, is the new god these days. People will do whatever it takes to justify upholding whatever narrative they have in their mind. That's you see a lot of people jump through hoops of double standards and all that, and that's why I think, we're increasingly seeing people view the narratives or whatever their narrative is, whatever the mainstream narrative or the right-wing narrative or the left-wing narrative, whatever they are, people are going to view that as their new god. They'll believe anything as long as it suits their agenda. Judge rules Michigan law broadly bans undue possession of voting machines, from DetroitNews.com by Ninja Lover. That's the thing, they always love to stretch definitions of words like undue possession, and that's why I think, that's why I would agree with the judge that it's probably too authoritarian. That law is probably too authoritarian. I think all the laws are too authoritarian to an extent. They're forcing other people's stuff on other people without their consent, and that's why I don't know if we should have laws at all. I think the people maybe should have their own laws as long as they're not hurting anyone else. Threatening to defend himself, I thought that was an American God-given right, from Whittling Dan. That was a crosspost from the White People Twitter subreddit. It was a tweet from Corey Soda. There is a BoJack Horseman episode where the fastest way for gun control yet through was for the wrong people to start aiming arming themselves for self-defense, and then they quote tweet spiraling. Be kind, brigade is not frightened to mass shoot people so kind. That's a trans person. I said I would agree. I think everyone should be able to, defend themselves for whatever reason. Some people like to start threatening violence, but I think you should be able to threaten violence, incite violence. I think, I don't think you should be doing that, but I think, I think that is fundamentally free speech, and I don't think that should be illegal. Let's see. One reason the Ray app is also used dangerous for Fox, and that's a tweet that Ninja Lover posted from Bill Gruskin. One reason why the Ray app is so dangerous for Fox, the company has long held Tucker Carlson et al. Can't be held liable for defamation because they're just expressing opinions. But App's lawyers cite Carlson saying on TV, "I knew for a fact." Well, my thoughts there is my thought there is that doesn't matter, still free speech. The U.S. government said it knew for a fact there were WMDs in Iraq and never faced any consequences for it. Plus, Ray-ups is still almost certainly a Fed. The thing is that Ray-ups is, I think you should be able. I think if the claim it might be for fact might be disingenuous out because it might be 100% proof. They don't have 100% proof that Ray-ups is a Fed. But the thing is that they should be able to claim because I think libel, slander, all that. I think that is fundamentally free speech, and that's why I don't think those should be crimes. And I like how a lot of people defend Ray-ups, even though he openly said he helped Wall Street January 6th, and he did a lot of incitement where people defended him. Yet for some reason, people defend him because Fox News is against him, and everyone something like MIT is for him. Really makes you think. People, as I said, are going to uphold narrative rather than them be consistent, because the media and a lot of people think they think for themselves, but they really just follow whatever agenda the elites push on them. Inevitable theological synthesis between the two pillars of the state religion from Arlen McIntyre. That was his quote tweeting the libs TikTok tweet with the woman who said, the trans woman who said, I want to be the first trans woman to have an abortion. And I said, will they have a Ukraine/BLM flag in the room as well? It's like I support my buying my choice. It's the person who seems to only want to do it because it goes with the narrative. Look at the abortion biologists demonstrating in regards to people not getting vaccinated. They would support my body, my choice when it goes to the narrative, when it says, because they think abortion's the best thing since sliced bread, and being transgender is in vogue. But that's the thing. It's the people. They do what the narrative tells them to do. They don't do things because they're popular. It's if everyone jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? And social media is good proof that yes, they would all jump off a bridge because everyone else did it too. That's why you gotta always be skeptical about other people and their intentions. Everyone wants to push their shit on you, and everyone wants to sell you something. So I think you gotta stand your ground, just believe what you believe, and just say keep yourself keep if you have your opinion, I have mine, and if you just don't force your opinion down other people's throats. Then we have Dear at MSNBC. This is the information you always fret about from Brad Palumbo on Twitter, and that is a tweet from that he posted a picture of it has rights go expense, whites only signs, but now straights only rule in business. And I said what I said rules for thee, but not for me. That the kids say the same for the U.S. government in regards to misinformation. Remember WMDs in Iraq. I would say the mainstream media and the U.S. government are probably two of the biggest purveyors of misinformation, but they'll never hold themselves accountable for it, and they seek to ban whatever whatever they deem that misinformation you share. So it just goes to show you that people are hypocrites. They'll be fine with their misinformation, but what they deem for you saying is misinformation, that's too much for them. So that's important to remember. They don't really care about misinformation. They care about the narrative. The narrative, as I said, is the new God, and that is increasingly evident. Then we have, what tools do you think the state uses to control people? And I posted that, and I said, my top 5 would be force, fear, propaganda, control of resources, and appeal to authority. And I said false, and I said Fox. One guy said Fox News. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Fox News would be a good tool. The U.S. government, there are 6 major corporations that control the news media in the U.S. The U.S. government has shown that it's corporate in nature. The owners company more likely the U.S. government's funding or otherwise involved in it. So that's my thoughts there. Censoring the Senate is another one as well. Probably blackmail as well. The U.S. government has been pushing censorship on social media as much as possible. Also, I disagree with your point. I disagree with this guy's propaganda as well. It's extremely easy for propaganda to thrive thanks to social media. Look at r/politics and r/play people on Twitter. You got these propaganda echo chambers, and that's why I think social media is kind of the golden standard for new propaganda. Force, the government has a monopoly on legal use of it and has shown itself to use using it to get people in line. Fear, it's easy to control people when they are afraid. Look how the Bush administration used fear push into the Iraq war. It's why people throw around words like genocide, Nazis, without second thought. Already stated my thoughts on propaganda. Control of resources, government controls things like monetary support. Most military resources force people to fall in line. Appeal to authority. Pretty straightforward. The government views skills being able to solve every problem. Already talked about censorship, how the US government uses it, and I wouldn't be surprised if they use blackmail as well. I also said, and then Dr. Who replied, where is showing the sports? Are you talking about police? I said, police mainly, yes, but the government can bomb its own citizens and not be able to account for it. I linked to the MOVE bombing in 1985 in Philadelphia. And I said, the scary thing is that the mayor who that bombing happened under won re-election after that as well. It's proof that the government will never hold itself accountable for its actions, and the people usually won't either as long as they have the correct letter next to their name. Then we have Seattle police kept mock tombstone for black man, Trump flag and break room. Video shows from SeattleTimes.com by Angela Lover. And that's, I would agree that's a little scummy. The police can be kind of scummy like that. That's why they're footmen for the state. That's why I shouldn't trust the state. You shouldn't trust anyone who works for the state. I don't even think you should trust the fire department because, they're working for the state as well. That's a public service as well. So that's why I don't know if you should trust anyone because they're all working for the state. And the state is inherently authoritarian. It wasn't COVID that shut down businesses, implemented lockdowns, and forced the elderly to die alone. It was the governments that responded to it in horrific ways. We can never let them do it again over climate change, guns, or any other crisis they manufacture. And that's from Lopi National on Twitter. I posted that and I said, when it comes to pretty much every crisis, the main source of the hype tends to come from the government media consortium. They know that if they control the narrative, they can control the people. Hype, of course, is another tool that can be used to control people, especially in the age of social media where attention and engagement are the name of the game. And, the action says, I thought the hype came from all the dead people. I said, the number was definitely overstated. Anyone who had COVID and died was marked as a COVID death, even if something like cancer killed them instead. So that's the thing is, it's all about the hype culture and the narrative culture and how the media and the government can use those to control people, and they're doing a bad job of it, if I say so myself, But I think people might be starting to wake up, but I'm not too confident there. Now people are trying to give the president credit for falling inflation. It was me. I stopped the inflation. You're welcome. And that's Mr. Beat on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, if something bad happens, it's not their fault, but something good happens because of them. That's the agenda when it comes to politics, Take credit for the good things. If it's a bad thing, it's not my fault. It's a lot of general human thought process. Why do all these democracy offenders want to jail their political opponents? From Zaid Jelani on Twitter. I posted that and I said, most people only support democracy when it does what they want it to. That's why I'm against forced collectivism. That's what democracy kind of is. The thing is, you just can't jail all your political opponents. That's increasingly what's happening, and I don't think it's going to turn out well, but whatever. I think maybe, since people are saying, authority is illegitimate, what people disagree with, if we can just get that authority is illegitimate, I think we could maybe get somewhere, Change my view. Government is naturally prone to corruption, and therefore we need to focus on abolition rather than reform. And I posted that and I said, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, as the old saying goes. If people want to form a voluntary government for everyone opting in, I would be fine with that, but I don't think people should be forced to live under a government that they don't consent to. The question is, would anarchy be inherently violent? Though, regardless, I'm not for anarchy. I'm for voluntary government instead of no government. So the thing is, ultimately, you have the anarcho-tyranny in cities. I think that's not going to be all the NAT violations. But I think the problem is that people are going to be inherently self-serving, and that's why I don't know if voluntary government will be survived. So maybe everyone will just have their own government. I guess maybe that could be anarchy, but everyone maybe operates as their own government. I don't know. But I think Right now, everyone wants to control the system. Well, I think everyone should have their own system. Everyone should try. On social media, everyone thinks they know so much, but maybe we should just have everyone try out their own system instead of forcing one system down everyone's throats. That's my thought. I've seen some fashy stickers around town. This is a new one from International Silver One. That's a cross post from the Iron Front USA subreddit, and that's a Kharkiv Ukraine flag and a Azov Battalion regime sticker, or Azov Battalion sticker. When you're so into the Ukraine narrative, you end up supporting actual neo-Nazis. That's the thing, People say, "Oh, don't support. I'll never support Nazi." But if the Ukraine narrative says Nazis are good, when they're ruining Ukraine, that's how people get caught up in the narrative. They'll support a Nazi if the narrative says to. GOP chair saw on camera saying we don't need to extinguish the left. And I like this Shuriken's point here. This is surprising. Both sides would love to eliminate competition for power. I said agree. Most of the subreddit only goes after one side, though. Then I said, parents, staff demand Toronto District School Board drop drag queen storytime opt-out. The board is standing firm from Toronto Store. I posted that. And I said, welcome to 2023. Drag is now a human right. People always seem to question me about enforced progressive standards. This is what I mean. They're enforcing progressive standards. I think the Libertarian option would be allowing parents to opt their kids out of anything for any reason. If they want to opt out of everything in their homeschool, I think that's okay too. So I think the thing is that, soon you're not going to be allowed to disagree with, if you disagree at all with the high men, they'll bully you for not following the line. Sometimes you just have to stand up for yourself. And that's something, I personally would not send my kids to school at all. I think school is inherently going to push their agenda on them, and that is something I don't know if we should be justifying. Industry groups complain people confused to click to cancel. This article is a perfect example of capitalists using newspeak to misinform labor communities who consume the media. This media from the Richard.com by Chi-Town20. I guess, the thing is, I would agree that there's a lot of newspeak these days, that's the thing. Everyone has an agenda and they're trying to shove it down your throat. Is the r/libertarian sub bang left libertarians now from Thomas Hodgkin, and that's self-post. For anti-libertarian ideologies. What I asked my simply rule one muted me. I said I was banned for having libertarian socialist slayer. Peers were right and left libertarians broke one up, but maybe that's changed because they might have a similar experience. I would agree. That's why I don't really like libertarian subreddit, because a lot of people, they want an echo chamber and they'll ban you for dissenting opinions, and that's the sad world we live in these days. We have the access to infinite perspectives, but we only want to be circle jerk before our own, and that's one of the great tragedies of humanity. We only want to circle jerk our own perspective. So, Disney CEO earning about $27 million a year calls strike by writers and actors disturbing. Reminder, there ain't no such thing as leftist corporation. 100% of capital shareholder control organizations are right wing. HuffPost.com from Chi-Town20. I would agree. The thing is that capitalism is more right leaning, I would say, but the thing is that I would say something like Disney is more socially leftist because it promotes all the LGBTQ stuff. That's why it's fighting the Florida government on that and all the woke stuff. They're more like right wing and how they're using that to their advantage. That's why they all turn their logos to the pride flag every June. Can we legally shoot looters from CBSNews.com by Base Forever? And that's an article of Rolling Hills landslide. Burglars arrested after fleeing into canyon. And I said, IMO depends on what they're stealing and how much you personally value. If I'm a small business owner and people are looting my store, I think you can see how people would justify using force. Ultimately, that is how life works. If someone's stealing everything you own and the police aren't doing anything about it, you might justify using force as well. So next we have Operation Atlantic Rescue. Sounds a lot like Get Ready for World War III, and here comes the draft from being libertarian. And I said Biden might use the war as a pretext for his re-election, it looks like. And now also, have the war economy, so that'll help the economy boom as well. So, it's like So, I think, it would also be a distant war, like, unlike it's a civil war or COVID, which were like also kind of marketed as a war to help free election campaigns. You know, those this one will be distant in Europe, so that's what will probably help them. So I don't know. I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they use this for World War Free. But then again, it feels like we're getting World War Free every day, every day now. So we'll see what happens. It could be just being nothing burgers. A lot of things ends up being. And we have a good one from Billy Greenwald. If your news comes only from left liberal shows and podcasts, you wouldn't even know there was a war in Ukraine. There are agencies called CIA, NSA, or that U.S. government is controlling speech online. It's 24/7 cultural war and trans issues because that's easier to confront. From Glenn Greenwald, I posted that and I said, I would agree. They say, same with the most right-wing media. To be honest, the culture war is simply a tool used to divide the polls from the massive grift that's going on in the U.S. government. Another good take from Greenwald: vote Democrat and stop questioning seems to be the mantra for this subreddit. We live at a time when upholding narrative without questioning is much more important for a lot of people than thinking for themselves. I like Greenwald's response to the guy who made it. And then Ice Bluff went, "What man Glenn must have hit his head hard this morning. This is even dumb." More dumb than his usual. What's your percentage of left wingers not constantly on CIA for the general sausage shenanigans in the third world? That's like 50% being the leftist. Come on, Glenn. As for cultural war issues, I don't see how reacting actual legislation being passed is something not deserving of coverage. And I said I like Greenwald's response to the guy who made a similar point in their replies to this tweet. Correct? There are activists and extremely well-funded LGBT groups who used to work almost entirely on marriage, equality, and equal-related issues. Once they won, they immediately switched to things like teaching kids gender ideology in schools and transforming care for teens. It's nowhere near that significant. It's truly exploited for clicks because it's cheap, low-hanging content that gets people riled up. It supports the myth that Dems are awesome and the GOP is fascist and lets liberals avoid Dems' imperialism, militarism, and corporatism. I would agree with that. The thing is, the Dems and GOP are far more similar than they are different. But they use issues like the culture war to divide people, as will they continue to grift for the proxy war in Ukraine, and this increasingly try and push it into a hot war. They must know who was responsible and determined they were not for us. Someone could have left cocaine. Someone could have left anthrax. Michael Mouse now was for the West saying, we couldn't find a suspect for the White House cocaine incident. I said it was 100% Hunter. Hunter openly recorded still smoking press. That 100% wouldn't surprise me. It was supposedly in a video of visitors calling, but it was almost certainly Hunter. And I think the thing is they'll say otherwise, but it was probably Hunter. And if they found cocaine in your house, you would go to prison immediately. Think about why that isn't the case here. It's pirates and emperors. Rules for thee, not for me. In a gang rape, 9 of 10 people agree what's going on. At Ron Doluvia, speaking about democracy, freedom, for us, the majority consenting so to make something right, and that's from Martha Wayne on Twitter. I said 100% correct. Democracy is mob rule. Just because the majority consents something doesn't make it right, and that's why I think all democracy is illegitimate. I think everything anybody else does is illegitimate if they're trying to force it on me. Because who gave them the right to do that? Just because other people check the box or wrote a name on a piece of paper, does that give them the right to do anything? I would say no, because that's not legitimate authority. Legitimate authority is only given by consent of the governed, and that is not what we have currently. And I think we're gonna wrap up there. I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.